Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Landon Dennis, and his near-death experience was just what, 2 years ago?
Yep, just right around there.
So, you want to start wherever you like and take as long as you like. Tell us about your
Okay,
experience.
all right. So to lead into my experience, I kind of have to tell you a little backstory. I'm a recovering drug addict. Um, I'm about 2 years, almost 2 years clean now. And what happened, what led to my near-death experience was drugs. Um, I've I've been a drug addict for since about 18 years old. I'm 36 now. Um, and I've experienced a lot of stuff in life that I brought upon myself when it comes to um, drug use, losing jobs, losing homes, losing my first fiance, losing the right to see my daughter, my first child, and it brought a lot of sorrow and stuff in my life and a lot of pain. Um, in a bit in my story, I'll kind of tell you why I'm telling you a few of these experiences because in my NDE, I was shown a few of these things, kind of like they were showing me past events. But I was homeless for a very long time and just a mess. I couldn't keep anything or anyone around me. It seemed like I could push anybody away or burn any bridge down within a matter of minutes. Um, so what came to my NDE is I'm living down in St. George, Utah, and I leave my house to go down the street to um, pick up pick up some drugs, and I was heavily into drugs at this point, and I was an IV user. Um, and so when I get to this guy's house, I I'm from about this point is where I'm told what happens because what happens is I overdose at this guy's house, and that's the last thing I remember for a while. Is I guess I overdosed, had some type of seizure. They Narcan me. Um, I got I got brought back to consciousness, whatever, and I guess I went and jumped on my Vespa, um,
What's a
and
Vespa?
thought it's a little motorized scooter,
Okay.
like something that someone like me definitely needs to be wearing a helmet on because I am accident prone and I am not. I just seem to be a magnet for accidents, but especially driving under the influence when I'm pretty sure I had like a concussion or something the way they described it, but I just hopped on the Vespa, the little scooter, and went to ride home as if nothing happened, I guess. And as I'm going down the road, I get hit by a car on my Vespa, get messed up again. And like I said, this is just what I saw in reports later,
So, I'm
police
sorry, I just
reports. And
gotta ask. So, when somebody's been Narcan, they can just go about their way, like they don't have to go to the hospital or anything.
sometimes, yeah, depending on the level of how much they've done and how, I guess, how fast the response time is for it. But for me, I've overdosed so many times throughout my life. I've flatlined quite a few times throughout my life. Cardiac arrest. I've been in the hospital so many times, but from overdosing and I never had a near death experience with those other ones. Only this time. But yeah, Narcan, it will snap people out of something pretty quick.
You've had that
Um,
before, the Narcan as well?
oh yeah, I've been Narcan many times. Like I said,
Okay.
my in my in my past, I've
Wow.
been a lot of bad places. Been and I've always been a very loving and kind person. I've never done anything like to physically hurt someone or anything like that, but my drug addiction led me to steal, to just get caught with drugs possession. I've spent years in jail for possessions or distribution charges, but it always circled around drugs. Drugs, certain ones have always been my kryptonite. So I have been Narcan quite a few times with drugs, and that's I mean that's nothing to be proud of, but I talk about it because look at what society and our world is going through. If you haven't experienced addiction, I guarantee someone in your family or someone in your close friends is experiencing addiction
Our
of
youngest adopted
alcohol or
son,
drug.
our youngest adopted son just turned 30 November, and he lost custody of his two little babies a year
Mm-hmm.
ago, and had just got two felony charges and three
Mm-hmm.
misdemeanors, and he only had to spend 18 days in jail for all of it together. And fines now. He's got the sober link and the electronic monitoring, and he's where
Mm-hmm.
you were at that time.
And I had to go through all that too. Just a few years ago when I got sober, I went through a thing called drug court. And before I went to drug court, I did like 6 more months in jail. They released me on an ankle monitor. I mean, what's cool about all these things I talk about, I don't talk about them with guilt or shame anymore because I know that a higher power is helping me turn these things that I've done in my life that were harmful to me and others and just were ruining me spiritually, mentally, physically. I'm turning these into good things. I'm able to talk with you about it on a podcast to hopefully reach out to others. Just like I said to you, if you haven't experienced addiction, I guarantee you know someone that
Right.
is experiencing
Someone
it.
in your
And it's
family.
yeah, it's everywhere, and that's why I'm so
And
willing
that's
and
why I'm
open
honest
on
about
these
my son. I
podcasts.
brought him up several times on my show because I don't want people to think, oh, she must be perfect. You adopted all
Mm-hmm.
these kids, you did all this and that. And no, our family's like everybody else's family. We all
Mm-hmm.
have
I
problems. I'm not going to try to pretend that we don't.
How many kids have you adopted?
We adopted 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm the youngest of eight, so I can, but are all 10 of them are adopted.
I have three of my boys, and the youngest of them is adopted. They're in their 40s now. And then my husband
Okay.
has two daughters. They're in their 40s now. And
Okay.
then we adopted nine together. And then the
Okay.
youngest of those, the youngest of all the 14, is the one that's having all these drug problems and legal
Mm-hmm.
problems, criminal
Yep.
possession, and
It's
like you
that
say,
it comes
and
hand in
domestic
hand.
violence and disorderly conduct, getting in fights and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's so what I've come to realize since my near-death experience, and I knew this in a way before, but what I know for 100% fact now are these things that people are dealing with and trying to overcome, like addiction and things like that, they are very, very much spiritual wars as much as mental.
mhm.
I mean, people always try to just say, addiction this, it's a mental health problem. It's it's I'm glad that AA and NA, which I attend, talk about that spiritual malady and that spiritual problem because in the world today, I promise you, there are dark forces working on you, but there are also light forces, good, good, loving forces that are just wanting you to ask for help.
I
But let
believe
me get
that.
into my NDE so
Yeah.
I can let me get into this so I can explain all that. So I left. I got hit by a car. Um, and I guess this again. I'm told this. I got up and drove home. The best, but I wasn't that far away from my house. But I just got up and got away from the scene of the accident and drove home. I later saw police reports, medical reports about it. But um, and when I get home, I guess I go into the bathroom, go sit up on the counter, and go to inject more drugs, and I overdose again. And I'm up on a counter, probably Indian style, because I remember how I used to do it. Again, I don't remember any of this, but I was on a counter and I injected drugs and overdosed again and fell back and cracked my head. So a third whammy there for me within the span of probably 30 minutes or less. But I cracked my head, and my wife came in and found me in the bathroom on the ground. And it was a pretty big fall from that counter, and I guess I just went straight back, cracked my head on tile floor, cracked it open more, My head was just gushing blood, swelling up like a balloon. I mean, I sent you a few pictures if you want to
Yeah.
stitch them in here. People can see, so they can see like the magnitude of what I'm talking about here I know it sounds crazy to have these three things happen at once. It does to me too. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see the reports and have people verify it. But she called the paramedics. They came, they saw how serious it was, and they emergency rushed me to the hospital. Um, and so, like I said before, the last thing I remember is right before that first overdose when I went to go get drugs. And now I'm coming back, and um, so the next thing I remember is all of a sudden I'm above an ambulance, looking down through this ambulance. And I would say, like, if you're laying down in an ambulance gurney and the top of the ambulance is above you, I was maybe like 2 feet, it felt like, above the ambulance. It's hard to kind of
Did
measure,
you see
but
down in
I
it?
could oh, absolutely. I could see straight through it. It's like it was transparent, but I could still tell it was an ambulance. It's very hard for me to describe. A lot of
I
this
get it.
stuff I'm going to describe to you is going to be very, very hard, and I'll come up with weird words to describe it because my brain scrambles when I try to think of certain things. But yeah, I could tell it was an ambulance. I could see through it almost as if it was transparent. I could see my body down there, on it, and just a group of guys around me working on me. Um, oh, they were drilling something into my knee. They couldn't find a vein, and so I guess they had to take some type of drill and drill into my knee, into my bone marrow to get a vein or something like that. I didn't feel the pain, luckily, because I hear it's very, very one of the most painful things to have that done. But I saw that. And as I'm seeing all this, I feel just the worst anxiety and like depression. Um, it, I get emotional through some of this. It's getting easier for me now that I'm sharing it more because it took me a long time to share this story. Uh, but I felt anxiety, depression, fear, um, anguish. Anything that you felt bad on this earth is what I felt like I was feeling, and it almost felt like it was too much. It was a lot to comprehend at that moment. I couldn't comprehend it. I remember thinking as I'm above the ambulance and they're hauling to the ER, and I'm just watching this, and I remember thinking, am I stuck as a ghost following my body for the rest of my life? Because I didn't know necessarily that I was flatlined or dead at that time. It didn't make sense to me, and so that was the best thing I could think of in that moment. That's how
Right.
terrified and scary it was for me. Is the best My best thinking was, am I a ghost following my body the rest of my life? Like, um, and as I'm thinking that, all of a sudden, just boom, instantly, I'm standing in this huge grass field, this beautiful, beautiful green grass field. And I can't describe the green. I can tell you green. Well, I guess something that popped in my head, it's almost like, imagine if each blade of grass was one of those green lasers in a pitch black room. Just a laser stream almost. Imagine each one of those blades like a laser, kind of like that in a way. I've never described it that way, but that's kind of what it was like. Because I say that because I'm sitting here looking at my webcam and it's got this green light looking at me, and it reminds me of like one of those green laser lights almost, just blades of grass. And it was such a cool color. But the coolest thing was, as soon as I got there, those bad feelings were gone away, and I felt so incredible. And when I looked at that grass, each blade of grass, it felt like it almost had like a spirit to it. Each blade though, and it loved me, and I knew it loved me, and I loved being there with it. It was pretty cool. And I looked out over the field, and even though I could say, if you were to look at the end of a football field, you wouldn't necessarily see each blade of grass in front of you because you're looking in the distance. Not until you focus down in front of you, and then you'll see each blade of grass. But for me, it was like I could look out over it yet see each blade at the same time while seeing it. And that's when as I looked a little further, I noticed this big hill in the background, kind of like a rainbow shaped type hill, just arched. That green grass, and behind it were these beautiful colors, and indescribable colors. Again, if the way I described it to this one guy the other day on a podcast was that if you took a big spotlight that they shine up in the air, the big spotlights, and you were to aim it up in the sky and say you put a diamond or a crystal on top of it, you know how if light reflects through a diamond, just those rays of
Mm-hmm.
colors that come out of it that are almost more spectacular than just a normal rainbow. It's almost like that. That's how I would describe it. If you put something like that on a spotlight and imagine that type of light refracting through a diamond, it was so cool. And I remember there was a lot of colors, but I remember two colors very very specifically, and one of them was a reddish color, and that was my grandpa. Um, and I've had experiences with my grandpa, other spiritual and paranormal type experiences, people would call it, with my grandpa, since he passed away quite a few years ago. I can't remember. I think I was around like 15 or 16. Um, but I saw that red light. I call it red, but that's close as I can come. And I knew it was him, and he was sending me love. And um, I saw this purplish light, and I knew that was my niece who had passed away in a car accident when she was 16, many years ago, also. And those are just the two that I felt that I could feel out of all those lights. And what's interesting as I've thought about it is those are actually two of my family members that have passed away that I've had a spiritual experience as far as dreams. And it's only those two. And so that's interesting that I've had them come to me in dreams, just those two. And those are the two lights that I felt there. And that's the first time I shared that comparison because I, Peggy, you know what, real quick, I'm so sorry. That's what I needed to do before I started this to help me. Could I say a prayer real quick
Absolutely.
to help get me through this? Okay. I'm sorry. I should have done
Don't
that at the
apologize.
beginning. So, okay. Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing me to be here this day with Peggy and to do this podcast to speak to others that we might help with the messages that we have to share and the things that we have to talk about. And please help people who hear this message to keep an open heart and an open mind, and to know and feel the sincerity of the things that I share. And please help this reach the people that it needs to. And again, thank you for all we have, Heavenly Father. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I meant to start off with that. Prayer is a really big thing for me. I'm about to get into that part, so I appreciate that. Um, so I'm up there. I feel my grandpa and my niece, the colors, and it's interesting now that I think about it that those are the two correlations that I've had them come to me in dreams when I was much younger. I mean, I was younger when these things happened. One time, the one I think I was around like 9 years old or so. That's my niece came to me, my grandpa when I was around 17. But yeah, those are the two that I felt there, and those are the two that I've had spiritual dreams with. And I know those dreams were real, and it was confirmed to me during this experience I had. And so where I'm at in this grass field, I see those lights. I feel them sending me love, and I want to go over there. Um, and as I just about am like attempting to go over there, I feel this presence a little bit behind me to my right, and so I kind of turn, and there's a beautiful beautiful lady standing there, and she looks in her late 20s, early 30s, just a beautiful brunette lady, and um, I felt so much comfort from her. And I've, if I, like I said, the grass I felt comfort from, but when this lady was staring at me, just peacefully smiling at me, the comfort I felt from that was even more intense. I mean, it's crazy that you can go from feeling nothing but love from grass, yet there's something that is even better. So that was cool to feel that, and to feel her before I saw her, to feel her there. That's another cool little thing that happened. And so as I'm looking at her, she starts communicating with me. I try not to use the word talk or speak because that's not what she did. Her lips didn't move. But she communicated with me, and it was just emotion, feeling, experience. It's almost like everything that she said to me, I felt and experienced every emotion that she had with that word. So if she was to say the word fire, I would feel the warmth of the fire. I would hear the crackling. I would smell the firewood. And I would have all that just from that one little tidbit of communication, but I would feel it. I would feel it all at once. It was so cool. So cool. I mean, it makes you realize how pointless words are trying to communicate with other human beings because people can take it however they want. And some of these things I've explained this the same way, but I'm gonna on other podcasts, but I'm gonna keep doing it because it's the best way I know how. Um, but people can take things just such the wrong way, like a text. I can't tell you how many times me and my wife have sent a text, and I'm gonna say when she's emotional, not me. I'll blame it on her for right now. But when she's emotional, she can take the text the wrong way and think that I'm saying something snarky instead of nice, And I've learned that I have to put a lot of emojis with my text now so that she doesn't take it the wrong, so she knows where I'm coming from. I used to not hate emojis, but no, I'm just as bad. I'm just to
I
blame.
think you gave the example on a podcast I watched. You said, have a nice day. That can be taken as sarcasm.
If they're having a bad day and they think that you know something about their day, then they're like, "Oh, he's this guy thinking I'm good. He's telling me to have a nice day because he knows I'm in a bad mood." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's and so this other communication was just it was so cool, and it was perfect understanding, and there was no judgment either from me to her what she was communicating, or from her to me what I was feeling back about these things that I she was explaining, communicating, and told me some reasons why I couldn't go back behind that hill. Just explaining I couldn't go back there now, but that I was so grateful that I felt them still, that I got that little tidbit of opportunity to feel them again, to know that they are still alive, just not on this earth. They're still he's still my grandpa. He's my unique grandpa that I love. He is not reincarnated as someone else on the other side of the world or is waiting to reincarnate as someone else's grandpa. He is my grandpa still. And I felt that. And his love as me as his unique grandson is still very strong. And I know there's life after this. From just even that little tidbit, and that was that I see that as such a blessing. Not I don't see it as the fact that, oh, I wish I could have gone behind there. I mean, you bet you're behind. I wish I could have gone behind
That's
there,
no
but
small thing to get to see your grandpa after he's passed.
I,
That's no little
well,
thing.
as a light though, he was a light. So that's the thing. He was the red light, but I didn't see him. I felt him, which was even better. I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, a hug's worth a million, like I'll tell you what, it was it was really cool, and I was so grateful for that. Um and as I'm communicating with her, I feel another presence, and it's a young man. I turn and I see him, but again, I feel him first, but I turn and I see him. It's a young man, very handsome. Um, I would like to say I looked like him, but because he was very handsome, but he's much better looking than me. But I can say that I know I'm related to him. I wish the genes would have run down the stream a little better my way, but he was a very handsome guy, and I know I was related to him. And I didn't ask them how. I wish I would have. And they both just started telling me so many cool things, Peggy, that and again, I pray every time because these podcasts I'm doing to get this message out is purely for me to try to get this message out to people to bring hope from what I know to be true. Um, but what they were conveying to me, one of the most important things, was the power of prayer and the ways they explained it to me were so amazing because it was through I can sit here and try to explain it to you through words the best I can, and I'm not even going to come close to what the reality of it was that I felt, but I'm going to do my darndest. Um, they explained it to me through again through emotions, sense, touch, smell, feeling, sight, hearing, but and when you get explained something through all those senses, like the power of prayer, I can tell you about how they told me about the power of prayer, but when you are given that gift of having all that at once to have that explain the power of prayer, then there's no turning back from that. I will never turn away or deny the power of prayer. I know it is real. And after that, they showed me times in my life as if almost like when I was above my body watching them work on me in the ambulance, even though that was horrible. I felt horrible whatever state that was I was in during that time. It was almost like that again, but I wasn't above my body. It was like they sent me to these situations in my life that I was having really really hard times. I mean, human emotions, suicidal thoughts, depression, just I was homeless. I lost everything. I'm, just thinking about myself. You're a worthless drug addict. No, nobody. They showed me these times, and that I mean, that these prayers came to me in these moments, and I saw the prayers as those lights that I saw coming up behind that mountain. I almost would compare it. I to like when you see if you watch Thor and that bridge sends the ray down to Earth and Thor comes out of it, but that rain, coming almost that rainbow color thing. It's almost like that, and I saw those come to me in these moments that they were showing me that hey, look, this is how you felt, and I mean. And I felt for a second how I felt in those moments, and that was really hard because those were hard times in my life, and I felt it for just a split second, and they conveyed to me like, do you remember these moments? And they showed me where these prayers came to me, and literally dark things fled from where I was at that place. And I remember this one scene they showed me in my life. I was living behind a dumpster, um, in Layton, Utah, but flying signs by a Walmart begging for money, and I would live behind this dumpster behind Little Caesars because they would throw their pizzas out at a certain time on Wednesday night, and I just remember eating this piece of pizza that would just I mean, it was nasty, but I was so hungry only because the little bit of money I made I would spend on drugs, and so I couldn't eat, but I had to eat this piece of pizza, and I remember looking at it and just thinking to myself, this is my last night on earth. I'm not going to live like this anymore. I've lost everything. I pushed everybody away, and I had forgot about it until this NDE experience, but I remember all of a sudden just feeling just warmth, man. I know people talk about like I got comfort and warmth at these times in prayer. I remember that feeling, and I remember the woman saying to me, "Look, do you not remember this night? Do you not remember how you felt that we just showed you? And do you not realize how many prayers were said to you from loved ones and family, both on this side of the veil and on the other?" Which comes kind of full circle to what I think those lights from my loved ones were coming up from behind that mountain. I know that there's life after this, and there's more work on the other side. We continue to progress, and so it makes me wonder if some of those lights were prayers, because I saw that type of light thing come to me in those moments that they showed me. And so it's a question I have about those lights, because these things I'm explaining to you, I'm not explaining it to you saying like this is it and this is what it is and this is what happened. No, I'm just telling you this is what happened, and I'm 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 shooting you my best guess on things that I wasn't specifically told certain things about by these people, but everything else is just, I mean,
I appreciate
you
that
know,
more than I do somebody that comes on and therefore it's like this and it's like this and it's like this. They're so
hmm
sure of what they're putting out. I'd rather, somebody be honest and like, this is just what happened.
yeah, it's yeah. And that's, it's when you sit here and listen to me kind of share a little bit of my story, you'll understand that I am very religious now. But when you hear the word religious, most people have a bad stigma to it. I'm LDS Mormon, but most people have a bad stigma with the word religion. The reason I'm religious is because I became so spiritual and so spiritual that it aligns with my spiritual beliefs, but I judge nobody else for their beliefs, be it spiritual, whatever. I've been through so many things in life that have taught me so much empathy for so many people. There's not a whole lot that I can think of that a lot of people have been through that I can't relate to, other than like murder or something, something crazy, but just kind of down in the dumps life experiences, that type of thing. I've been through all of it, and I am so grateful for it, because these prayers from my family and the prayers from my loved ones helped me through those hard times and those trials. And I saw that. I physically saw it. And I physically, emotionally, and spiritually felt it, both when the moment happened and being shown it again at this moment. And just them telling me, do you not realize how many loved ones you have around you? How many people call them angels, people, spirit guides, whatever words they have for them. There's both good and bad entities in this world. And the good entities and our loved ones, both future and ones that have passed away, are able to help us in this life. But um, basically, they were telling me that these prayers are so powerful, but we need to ask for them, because this life is our choice. We came here because we were spirits that were living in basically just an eternal happy state. It even says that in the Bible and many other religions. And I'm not. I will do my best to not push anybody off by getting any type of religious way on you, because that's not what this my goal is about on this. I will share some of my beliefs because I am religious, but I want everybody to hear and feel something from this. Look
And at
for
the
the
same time, you don't have to
similarities.
apologize for being religious either.
No, and I will never apologize for being religious, but I want to approach these things in a way that that both people know where my stance is, yet know that also I have probably been where they've been at in life, and so I understand. You know what I mean? I have so much empathy and no judgment, and but I will stand up for what I believe in. But I invite all to come and ask questions and ask me things and ask you things. Well, I guess you'll have to invite them yourself. But for me, I invite all to bring their thoughts and their ideas, their religions, their spirituality. Bring them with you, and let's talk. Let's get ideas out. And at the core, I always find that everything fundamentally is geared towards the same thing, that we have a loving creator and we should all love each other, and that this life it has a purpose. Don't live this life, and this is other things I was shown and told up there by these two people. Don't live this life as if this is it. Don't think that this life is just here to look, we're a few atoms and cells clumped together and have fun while you can, and after that, well, nothing. Don't I hope people don't live that way. Um, Even if you did live that way, you're not going to be, if you thought that way, people that live that way still aren't happy in this life. If like rich people, you hear it all the time, rich people, when people end up getting what they want, they end up realizing that they almost got what they deserved by chasing what they wanted. Um, and so when I talk with you about all this stuff, I don't want to push people away. I want all people to feel welcome and share their ideas, but I will stand up for my belief, and I do believe in Jesus Christ. I am LDS, and um, this experience that I had has nothing to do with my religion. This experience I had that I'm sharing with you is an experience that I'm, through my thought process, trying to unravel and comprehend and make sense of. But the experience itself, I leave open to everybody to interpret it the way that they feel they need to. And
Okay,
that's
well,
why I
let's get
invite
back to
everybody.
it.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, see what I mean? I get off
Yeah.
track. So okay, so I'm with those two people up there. They're telling me those things. I know I'm related to them, and I don't ask them how I'm related to them, which drives me nuts to this day. But um, I wonder if they're ancestors or even future relatives. Um, I believe that's a possibility, that either past or future. And so when I'm talking to them, I I I couldn't tell you how time works either. Because when I've talked about these things with other people, the time frame that they're saying down here when I was taken to the hospital and stuff compared to what I thought it was is totally different. But I feel this one last goodbye from those lights, one last I love you, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm back above my body again, and those horrible feelings all come rushing back, and I'm watching them like in the middle of my brain surgery from my traumatic brain surgery, and I'm witnessing a part of this, and all those, again, all those feelings are emotional and spiritual and mental feelings. I never felt any physical pain when I was in this realm above my body, but um, I'm watching this surgery and I almost couldn't take it anymore. It was too intense of emotions, and to see that, to see your head. I mean, and like I said, you can stitch the pictures later to show people, that I sent you, where my head's cut open, stitched back. But to see that is a very traumatic thing. I laugh about it now, but and the thoughts, and the feelings. I mean, that went along with that I was feeling was very, very intense. And I just remember feeling like I couldn't take it anymore. Um, and I just hear the lady's voice, the lady that was up there that talked to me up there, the young lady. Oh, I hear her voice just say, "Landon, it's time. Landon, it's time." And then I just remember kind of opening my eyes and seeing my family around me. And I was very confused at this point because I guess I had been awake. It was about 3 days after my surgery. They didn't know if I was going to live or not after the brain surgery. They said, we're next 24 hours is all we're focused on. We don't know if he'll live. So I made it 24 hours. I made it 48, and then about 72 hours is when I kind of remember coming to. And I guess it was right after my dad had given me a priesthood blessing. Uh, or what happened is I came to, and I asked I guess the first thing I asked everybody was to have my dad hurry and give me a priesthood blessing. And I don't remember asking this. But he hurried and came, him and one of our neighbors down the street came and gave me a priesthood blessing. And that's it's just a blessing in the LDS church from someone that holds the Melchizedek priesthood. And I remember when I came to from that voice, which I believe was when my dad gave me that blessing. I try to time those two, and I believe that's when it happened. I come to see my family, and I see all these dark things fly out of my room, and I don't know how the best way I would describe them. If you ever see like the pictures of ghosts, like Casper, how he has that,
Uh-huh.
like it comes down to a little tail at the bottom, wisp type thing. It was like that type of thing, but black, and I just see these black wispy things just fly out of that room, and I almost feel like those were what was keeping me in that state, like above my body. Um, and that blessing was able to get me get me out of that state. And that's when I remember waking up. And do you want to get in on the topic a little bit of um, paranormal dark experiences
Not right
that
now.
have to do with spiritual or no? Okay.
Yeah, not right now, no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. What so well, the thing is, the only reason that I speak about that is because since I was younger, I've had dark entities in my life that I've physically seen and physically have felt had things done to me physically, mentally, and um, I remember as a young kid, my mom told me to say, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." When these I call it poltergeist. I call them shadow people, but they lived in my old house, and it used to mess with me as the youngest of eight a lot. And my mom told me, "Hey, you need to tell these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Leave." And it didn't make sense to me at the time because I was young. I was taught about Jesus Christ, but it didn't mean much to me. And I remember this night I did that when it was in my room and I could feel it standing in the corner and it started coming towards me and leaned over at the waist and was above me. And I said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." I thought it because I couldn't speak or move. It would freeze me like paralysis. Um, and it happened a lot, but finally this one night I said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." And it did some type of scream sound, some weird sound, and it just poof, took off. And it still stayed in the house and messed with other family members after that. But yeah, I know the power of prayer. I know the power of of me personally, the name of Jesus Christ. Um, I know the power of those things, and
You know what that makes me think of is true story movies I've watched so many times. They talk about someone that has attacked them, trying to kill them, and they'll say their eyes just turn black,
I've heard that before.
like like they're just possessed. And a few
Hmm.
times I've heard them say in those situations that they've said something like that, like the name of Jesus, leave, or bring up Jesus' name somehow, and they back off. It's just like it just
Hmm.
shrivels up, and whatever is inside them that's taken over them, that's possessed them to do
Hmm.
something like that.
A, a lot of these, that's what I was saying at the beginning. A lot of these things that people don't realize are spiritual. A lot of these problems that people are having in life, they acute it to other things, but it's very much spiritual. There's a very big spiritual war going on right now, and I even people that I believe aren't spiritual can see what's going on in front of their eyes and realize that there is good and evil going on right now, and people, I'll tell you what, it's people are starting to kind of pick sides pretty quick, and it's crazy to say that. It's almost, but you look at the world, and yeah, there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I've seen how these dark entities in life affect people, and I've seen how prayer can protect against that. In instances in my life that my parents' prayers came to me in moments and protected me from things, so I know prayer's real on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've started to look back at my mother, and there's times that I'm looking at a demon. Like she's not even a person anymore. That she was just so
was
evil. And I used to
was
see my
she
stepdad that way, but it got to be her.
Was she a alcoholic or drug
Nope, none of
addict?
that. None of that.
Really?
Just She married she got with my stepdad when I was 10 after our parents' divorce. And I thought he was the devil for 8 years till I got out of there at 18. I thought he was the devil. And then
Mm-hmm.
he died when I was 20. And then it's like she took it over. It's like she just
So it's
become whatever he was, like in honor of him or something. And even up
well,
to her
do you
dying day at 89, I saw the day before she died, and she was just as evil as she could be.
well think if you believe in spirits, ghosts, poltergeists, demonic entities, also angels, if you believe in that type of stuff, then I mean, you've seen in scriptures and stuff like that casting demons out, but they they attach. You know, if you're around someone long, you start dark entities are able to attach to people, and it's hard to say that in like a it's there's no scientific way to really say it, you know what I mean? It's some people will think it sounds crazy, but it's true, it's real. And so when you speak of that, you know, it makes me wonder, you know, if more attached to her after the passing, and because those things do happen, but just as the same way they can attach to you, you can unattach them from you. You can
Yeah.
detach them.
Yeah.
Prayers
People
are
have to
real, but
want to be good, I
mm-hmm,
think. Some people want
mm-hmm,
to be bad, like the youngest adopted son is talking about. It just seems like he wants to be bad. He does
mm-hmm.
not, and he used to be a little altar boy. He used to go with the priest every Sunday and give, communion to the sick. Now that I think of it, the priest actually took my son with him on an exorcism one time.
Hmm.
And I thought maybe that
That's
wasn't a good thing to
how
take a
old?
child too.
Yeah, how old was he?
He was probably around 12.
Hmm. That's I mean that's kind of scary. Like we were just talking
Yeah,
about, if you're gonna be around that type of stuff and attachments, you know, that's kind of scary to
yeah.
think
And they didn't
about.
ask my permission. I didn't know about it till later. He
Oop.
took him to an
Yeah.
exorcism. Somebody who was exorcism. They would take, communion to
He's,
the sick and things, but then one
yeah.
time he took him with him to an exorcism.
He's, he just said, hey, we're going to feed the poor. Oh, and by the way, we need to get this demon out of this guy real quick. Just
Yeah,
tag along. It'll only take a minute.
yeah.
See, well, I mean, you know, there's what. Let me ask you a question. What do you what are your beliefs on um family bonds being eternal compared to reincarnation?
I'm not a believer in reincarnation. I think the family genealogy is reincarnation, My grandmother had my mother's eggs in her,
Mm-hmm.
before, the eggs that would be my mother. And then my mother was born with all the eggs she would ever have. So I was actually once in my grandmother's body. It just seems like,
I
um,
mean
and we
spiritually.
go over on the other side, what people see normally, their grandparents. And
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like we have this ancestor like group of angels, guardian angels watching over us. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. So you believe in eternal family bonds, like your position kind of. I know this is like is a deep question, but I'm so curious with people I talk to about this, and like I said, no, never any judgment. I'm just pure curiosity that so you believe that like on the when we go to the other side, do you believe that at some point you're going to be reincarnated back into your same family on this earth? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Like
no, no,
through
no. I,
faith
I
or
believe that when I cross over, I believe when it's for good, that I believe my mother and grandmother and great grandmother and great 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 and all the ancestors, I think I will meet them all. I think I will
mm-hmm,
meet all the miscarriages I had, the miscarriages my mother had, my grandmother's had.
mm-hmm,
I think we have a soul family on the other side, and
mm-hmm.
I think some look out for us, and maybe my mother sometimes maybe is a dark thing that comes through in me that I have to fight to get her out. I never thought that
Mm-hmm.
before, but I said
Yeah.
since the day she died, haunt me because I don't want her near me because she's always said before she passed that um, I'm not going to heaven or hell. I'm going to hang around and haunt my kids and torment them just like they've tormented me. I mean, that's the kind of
I get
person she was, you know. And
that's.
so sometimes, I start feeling this darkness and I'm like, that's my mother. I don't want that near me.
Hmm.
I don't
That's
want it nowhere near me.
I yeah, I don't know because I do know from my experience that loved ones can help us, but I could yeah, I don't know about the other side as far as I know there are I okay, so I'll just say I don't believe that when you pass this earth, I don't know how to explain it actually. I can't.
It's like our
I
NDEs,
don't
we
know.
just get this little
It's
glimpse, we don't get the full scale
Yeah,
tour.
it makes it well it does kind of make me wonder though, if there's because there's always yin and yang to everything. I know that for sure. I mean, scientifically even we can say that, but I say it spiritually too. And so I guess in a way I don't have a stance on that what you just said. I guess it could be possible. I've never really thought about it in that way. What I always just consider poltergeists or things like that I've experienced as in a sense souls that chose not to have bodies on this earth. They chose to
After
go
my
Lucifer.
stepdad died, or after his funeral, I woke up early the next morning and he was staying at the foot of my bed. And I sat up and I said, "You get the hell out of here. I didn't want to see you when you're alive. Certainly don't want to see you when you're dead." And I just lay
Hmm.
back down and put the covers over my head. Like, get the hell away from me. Go to hell
Was
and
it was
burn, get what you deserve.
yeah.
Don't come back here, ask me for forgiveness. And
Uh-huh.
then years later, I was driving to college and all through, sudden through the windshield, I felt like he was there wanting forgiveness. I was like, I'm not giving it. Get out of here. I'm not giving you your forgiveness. Since then
Hmm.
I have said forgiveness and I've tried to remember one or good. I can remember one or two times he was actually said something kind.
Hmm.
So I try to focus on, the times that they were kind and not
And
the
and
rest.
and on the flip side, how cool is that in a way that you were given that experience from their personalities and who they were to now have the attitude you have about those kind of people and situations that you can be kinder because you've experienced it and you can help others through it talk just how you did. And so that all of our the bad things in life, I've said it before, God wastes nothing. My addictions are not going to go to waste. I plan on trying to be a drug counselor or therapist, and those things that you've experienced with your family that the I can tell just by you talking about them, it's made you a stronger, smarter woman.
I
And
used to be
and
a primary counselor at a drug clinic, methadone
okay,
clinic,
oh
but
okay.
I didn't like it at all.
Mm-mm. I don't like
Um,
methadone.
I have no sympathy. Sorry, but I
Yeah.
just had no sympathy because they would come in and tell me the bad things they're doing. Stealing from grandma, taking their little boy with them on the semi when they're driving for their job because they'll stay more sober if he's with them. Not that they're
Mm-hmm.
not doing any drugs because they still are, but that, and just, their boyfriend who's also at the clinic, beating her up and all these things going on. And we're not allowed to report anything because that's bad for business.
Yeah.
Where I come back from, working as a child abuse investigator and they're telling me I can't report any of this horrible stuff that's going on. And
Yeah.
I felt that they were very selfish people and I
Yeah.
just didn't have and
Absolutely.
they'd tell me it when I have group sessions with them, they would gang up on me and tell me that they didn't want a counselor that I never have been drug addicted, and so they didn't want one that
Mm-hmm.
had not had an issue with drugs. And I said, well, they can't have counselors that have issue with drugs because being around drug addicts talking about drugs all day, they would start to want drugs. So,
Yeah.
if people like you, I mean, if you can be a former addict and then be a counselor, that's great. But as long as
Mm-hmm.
you're going to keep yourself safe to where you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to start wanting to be in that cool crowd.
Well,
They think they're
what's
a cool crowd.
what's cool about that is that that's one thing that's gonna help keep me sober is being involved in that type of stuff. And I've been those guys before. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Manipulators, they'll
I've
stay
been
and do
there. Yeah.
anything to
Oh
try
yeah.
and get me to give them a break somehow.
Yeah, that's what we do as addicts, you know. That's I am one of them. I've done
To
it
tell
my
you what
whole
they'd
life.
do, they would, when they get their take homes, everything was about getting their take homes because then they would go sell them to get the drugs they really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
wait when they got those take homes. They'd want the bathroom key. They come to me and give me a sob story. Oh, I got this Crohn's disease or whatever. Give me the bathroom key because they couldn't wait till they got the parking lot to shoot up. They wanted to do it right there in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
And it was just
That's
it's so frustrating. It's like I was a counselor at a maximum security women's prison before, and it's the same thing. It's just a manipulation and narcissistic stuff, and
mhm.
I found it very draining. The most draining job I ever had was at state mental hospital, and
Oh,
just
I bet.
walk in that area and all those people with mental health problems. It was nothing
You
but darkness. I felt the darkness,
you
and
feel
I
it.
didn't stay
Oh
very
yeah.
long on that.
No, I wouldn't either. That's a would be a very tough place to be in because I see auras around some people sometimes now since my incident, different colored auras, and I don't know what it means exactly. Hopefully someday I'll find out a little better why I see colored auras around certain
Probably
people
because
and
you
certain
saw in your NDE
colors.
the colors, the red and the purple and the green. The color was a big thing on your NDE, and it seems like whatever we experience on the other side, that's the sense that we come back with.
I wonder what those colors mean. You know, like when I see, because it doesn't, it only happens more not more often than not, but it doesn't happen very often. Um, but it does to random people with certain colors, and so that's kind of a weird thing that I'm trying to figure out day by day what
Maybe
it
take
means.
notes. Maybe take notes on it. Help write it
I
out and compare.
s- s- Someone came up to my gas station the other day and came in pumping gas, and I saw this like yellow aura around him, and I don't see I don't know if I've ever seen a yellow one, honestly. And it was very intriguing to me, and I was so close to asking him. Just I didn't know how to approach, just starting a conversation because it seemed like they were in a hurry. But I wanted to know so bad why I was seeing a yellow aura around him, but I didn't ask because they were in a hurry pumping gas. But yeah, I hope I get a chance to figure it out a little bit better. Because how do you go up to someone in public and be like, hey, I'm a stranger. Can I talk to you for a minute? Because I see a light around you. You know, how do you do that? I mean, I didn't even share with people for a long time that I was experiencing that. Because how do you do? It's a weird
I always thought
weird
if I was a
thing.
color, I'd be purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I actually now I think about it too. I've never seen it over phone or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's always been in person, so I don't see one around you. So I don't know. And I've never seen one in the mirror either. Actually, now that I think
Oh,
about it, how
oh.
come I get to see other people's, not mine? What the heck? Now that I think about it, that's kind of, huh, that's weird. But yeah, I don't know what that means. But that's also happened to me since um my NDE. But
I've
um
always felt that there's some kind of connection. I don't know what it is to spirits coming through and mirrors, windshields, any kind of reflective glass, because I've had experiences with those things involved. Like, my stepdad come
hmm
like, through the windshield and like, get out here. And then,
Well,
but then the most profound one was bluish spirit come right through the windshield real fast, like I thought it was a bird hitting the breaking through the windshield. And so there's a guy down that road has two girls that need you. I thought, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. And a month later, I'm driving down that same road and I have to pull over because a guy I had met, this is after my divorce, had gave me directions to his house and he has two girls. and I had to pull over and I put it together. Oh my gosh. The last time I was down this road, this spirit come yelling through this windshield. There's a guy down the road, has two girls that need you, and I'm headed down that road to meet his two girls. And I thought, I
Hmm.
want to go home because I'm scared. It scared me. These things scare me. Some people
Yeah.
have, voices and they're all not me. It scares me every time. I get anxiety.
Hmm. I've had personal experiences of things like that, like foresight type things, and just weird, but very intense ones that aren't just kind of like you can kind of just dismiss, like, oh, maybe it's just I mean, there's been ones that are like, holy crap, and it's been really weird, and I never share those with people when they happen, but it happens quite often since my accident too, and that yeah, that one is not something that when it happens I share very often, but it's really cool when it does happen. I have those experiences too since my accident. It's been pretty cool. One of the I had to learn to like walk and talk again after my NDE and after I had that whole experience. I was in the neuro ICU for just over a month. Luckily, they thought I was going to be in there like 6 months minimum. And I'll tell you what, I believe from that blessing from my father, I came out of that state I was in, and I healed so miraculously fast. I was out of that entire unit in just over a month, and that's from being almost a vegetable to learning how to walk again, kind of talking again, and just all those functions. But I could still play the piano after about a week of coming out of that surgery and mini coma. I couldn't quite walk yet, but I could play the piano, and I have a picture of me playing the piano
Have
with
you been drug
the
free
staples.
since
Yeah,
then?
so no, no. Well, right. So here's a crazy story. This is what ended up leading to me getting drug free. Is the day I left that hospital, and this is how powerful dark entities are. That I could have an experience like that and experience the things that I did, and those people in the place I was, that I could still come back here. And as soon as I leave the hospital, I go get heroin, drugs. Like that doesn't make sense. If someone else was telling me that, I would be like, how did you have an experience like that and then go get drugs like that? Like
Well,
and
my
the only
tubal pregnancy at 25, the very next month, I was pregnant again. I just died. I had
hmm,
internal bleeding, filled my entire abdominal cavity, clear to my chest. Biggest tubal pregnancy they ever saw. The next month, I was pregnant again. I
that's
miscarried
what?
about the same,
Uh-huh.
about 2 months too, and then tried
Hmm.
forever to get pregnant after that. 7 years later, another tubal pregnancy. I never got fixed.
Well,
I never did birth control. I know when I could die at any time. But that's a little
well,
different than drugs. Trying to have a baby,
yeah.
different than drugs. But
No, well, I believe Peggy. I personally know after my experience, but I believe and know that you're gonna see those children again. Um, there was a
I hope
reason that
so.
they had to come and get a body. But you're gonna see those children again. Those are your children.
So you
And,
did heroin right after you got out of the hospital.
yeah,
Then what?
anyways, so I got out of the hospital, um, and I didn't even get to do heroin. This is the kicker.
Oh,
I got out of the hospital, and I had someone drive me up to get heroin, and my dealer pulled up to the place, and I got out of my car and hobbled over to his window, staples still in my head, hospital gown out in public, dude. I didn't care, but um, hobbled over there to get the drugs from him. And as soon as he handed it to me out the window, it was wrapped in tinfoil. And I hear this, "Hey, what you got there?" And there was a cop walking around the corner of the building right then. He saw us do the
wow.
deal as he handed it. So I turned around and he took it out of my hand and took me to jail. So right when I got
Good
out of
thing.
the hospital, I went straight to jail and had to spend most of the time in the medical unit. Did like I think that time I did like 4 months or so, and got out and did the drug court program and have been clean since.
So
I'm
you
just
have
trying
been
to.
clean because you didn't get to use those drugs.
Well, yeah, yeah. So yeah.
So it's like if the NDE wasn't going to do it, if the car wreck
Y-
wasn't going to do it, the OD and then the
Yeah,
car
it's
wreck and then the
it
falling
was
off the counter, I'd straight jail
I and
again.
I again, yeah, I've been hit by well, I mean, I've been hit by 3 cars total in my life on bicycles and walking and my Vespa, and then like yeah, I like I said, I'm very accident prone.
You are meant to be
And
here.
it's
You have a
something
purpose.
I was told some really cool things that someday I'll share or show some of those things I was told. Um but yeah, the biggest one I wanted to share with people is just the power of prayer. Um and that prayers are answered. You might not see that prayer being answered when you say it. You don't see the fruits of your labor by saying that prayer, but I promise you it's being
Yeah,
answered.
it's true.
I saw that and I felt that, and it's like when my parents prayed for me, they didn't see those times that it helped me in those situations, but it sure did. And so
Now
it's
you have a YouTube channel now?
yeah, I have a YouTube channel. Because when I did this podcast, the first one, a lot of people have a lot of deeper questions for me, and I only shared small parts of my experience because we have short time and stuff, but I just felt compelled to make this channel to try to answer people's questions
Okay.
that have a little deeper questions. So it is Strange Truth Talk on YouTube.
Okay. I'll put the link in your
Yeah, and
description.
I'll send you the link, and it's purely for um people that have deeper questions about this stuff, and
Okay.
so that's why I want to do it to help others,
So
and
I
that's why I did
appreciate you
this
coming on,
podcast with you. Yeah.
and I'll get this sent out to you later today.
All right, right on, Peggy. Hey, I appreciate you. And it was cool learning a little bit more about you, and I guess the last thing I would leave with you, Peggy, is I'm sorry for the things you've been through with your children.
Thank you.
There and if if you I believe you do have faith, and you'll see them again. And
Thank you.
your child now that you're having trouble with will benefit from your prayers, so don't quit.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome,
All right.
Peggy. Yeah,
Bye-bye.
this was awesome. See
Thanks.
ya.